too fast and be gone. On Mount Kenya and on Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, the glaciers are almost gone. And when they stop sending water down, you'll have a lot of problems in agriculture.
Now, this is a picture showing you what the temperature in the soil in the north slope of Alaska is doing. This is temperatures made in oil wells. This is a depth here in meters. So what people do is they put a very accurate thermometer down an oil well and measure the temperature. And you can see on this particular well, in 1989, the temperature was here, and the temperature pressure about minus 9.5 C. But in the same well, look over time, 95, 201, 207. The Earth in the Arctic is getting warmer. And as it gets warmer, once this temperature over here gets to 0 C, goodbye to your permafrost. So we're watching this. This is not data that we collect. The 209 data is now available, and next time I show this, you'll see wherever it goes. I assume it will be farther over, we don't know. But this shows without a doubt that the Arctic Earth is warming up from global warming.
Also, as the tundra gets warmer, it melts and the water turns into lakes. This is the same picture taken in 1978 and 1998 from the same place near Fairbanks. Here it's frozen, nice, you can walk on it. Now look, it's turning into a lake. So there are areas that are already changing very rapidly in the Arctic. You've heard about the Arctic sea ice, and I think you saw on the globe today, up in the Arctic here, usually in the winter that freezes solid, and then in the summer it melts back. Well, more and more is melting each year. And this shows you the extent of the ice from 1978 to 2008. And you can see it's gone down by a very large amount because there's more energy in the Arctic and it's melting more ice. What that is going to do is eventually kill most of the polar bears, because the polar bears live on the ice, and if the ice is not there, they can't hunt and they drown. So polar bear populations will go down, and polar bears will get thinner, and they could even go extinct in the next 50 years because of the loss of the ice. Also, though, the ice up here, when it's extended, reflects sunlight, so it keeps the Earth cool. But when there's less ice up there, you're going to have less reflection, so it's going to get warmer and warmer. So you have a self-feeding loop. Less ice, more heating, less ice, just faster, 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 faster. And in the Arctic, the birds wait until the snow melts to lay their eggs. And the snow is melting generally earlier in the year. In the 1940s, it was melting around June the 18th, and now it's down to June 9th, 10 days earlier. And on a growing season that's only 90 days, that's a large percentage. So the animals are having to change their patterns, the birds in the Arctic, so it's definitely affecting the Arctic. Look at this picture closely. Look at the ice, look at the mountains, put the picture in your mind, and that's what it is today. It's even less today, that's 204. Go back. And these issues that are going to cause the sea level to rise much. It's two places. It's the ice that's on Greenland, which is 2 miles thick, and all of the ice in Antarctica. That's where the reservoir of water is. And you saw on Science on the Sphere that possibly we're going to add 2 to 6 meters. That's going to happen when this ice, which is 2 miles thick, this is 2 miles, a lot of ice, melts. And there's some indication that this is now occurring in Greenland, not so much in Antarctica, but in Greenland. But it will take hundreds to thousands of years to melt all that ice. There is so much there. A big issue on aerosols now is coal burning. And in China, they're adding a new coal burning power plant every 10 days, and India shortly will be doing the same. 40% of India does not have electricity, the people. And by the end of this century, the government of India says every person will have electricity. And the only way that they're going to make that electricity is to burn more coal. India has a lot of coal, and China has a lot of coal. And they're going to be burning it more. And you can see here what China, just the increase in burning of coal in China since 2003 has been, because they are increasing the amount of electricity, because people want refrigerators, they want nice houses, they want to build nice apartments, they want to run cars, and that all takes electricity, and the electricity is coming from coal. Can you imagine what that's going to look like when India starts putting on one power plant every week or every month for the next 10 years to make enough electricity to keep their people, to raise their living standard? And we can't really blame them, because we have done that. Most of us have refrigerators, most of us have electricity in our houses, and when you think of all of the billions of people in China and India are soon going to have the same. So there's going to be a huge increase in energy consumption, and a lot of it's going to be coal. And coal is bad because it puts out a lot of CO2, some methane, but a lot of particles. So we have to start thinking about how we can control some of this. Next. And here's some thoughts on fossil fuel energy. These are thoughts that many people have, is that eventually we're going to use most of the fossil fuels. So wouldn't it be smarter for us to now start to plan, to start to put in wind, to start to put in more hydro, to start to use more solar energy? Because eventually we're going to need to know and how to do that. So it would be smarter to start while we have the time now and still have a lot of fossil fuels to burn and to heat our houses and travel, to develop these alternate technologies, because eventually we're going to have to. So it's better to do it earlier than when we're in a panic mode.
Para que no se repitan los sucesos de las imágenes anteriores, es preciso que hagamos cambios personales y poco a poco lograremos cambios significativos globales. Al regresar de la pausa, conoceremos las respuestas que el Dr. Ross dio a los invitados a su conferencia. Esto es Hipótesis WAP.
La UAP te invita a disfrutar el complejo deportivo universitario y de alto rendimiento, alberca olímpica, fosa de clavados, chapoteadero con calefacción, canchas de fútbol y básquetbol con alumbrado, centro tenístico, escuelas infantiles de iniciación deportiva y de gimnasia artística, centro de desarrollo de artes marciales, escuela de fútbol Lobos UAP, en instalaciones de lujo, inscripciones abiertas. Complejo deportivo universitario y de alto rendimiento.
Nuevo Museo Universitario Interactivo Casa de los Muñecos. 26 salas permanentes de exposición. Peña universitaria. Restaurante. Un espacio moderno para la expresión artística y la convivencia en un ambiente único en Puebla. Te esperamos en 2 Norte número 2. Nuevo Museo Universitario Interactivo Casa de los Muñecos. El rincón cultural de la UAP para Puebla y los poblanos. La cultura nos enriquece. El análisis nos motiva. El deporte nos apasiona. La calidad nos distingue. La diversidad nos fortalece. La docencia nos define. La investigación nos enorgullece. Y tú nos das la razón de ser. Benemérita Universidad Autónoma de Puebla. Servicios hospitalarios de calidad para tu mascota. La UAP te ofrece el Hospital Veterinario para Pequeñas Especies, en donde encontrarás consulta externa, hospitalización, farmacia y cirugía. Hospital Veterinario para Pequeñas Especies, un servicio de la UAP para la sociedad.
En este último bloque conoceremos las respuestas que el Dr. Ross dio a los invitados a su conferencia. Bienvenidos a Hipótesis.
Necesitaríamos un nuevo protocolo que incluyera estos nuevos gases de efecto invernadero que tal vez no están incluidos en el actual protocolo para reducir esas emisiones, como el SF6 y los otros clorocarbonados y los aluros.
How fast do we need a new protocol that includes all the other gases that are not included in the Kyoto Protocol?
Yesterday. It is getting almost too late to do a lot of this. If we'd have done something, if the U.S. would have signed the Kyoto Protocol and would have obeyed it, and the other countries that have signed it, most of them have not been able to live up to it, then we would be much better off. But it's a very difficult problem because we like electric lights. I think these are made by burning methane, natural gas. We like refrigeration. We like cars. We like travel. We like big malls that are air conditioned. And until we change our thinking, and it's going to be very difficult. And all of the people in China and India, they also want electricity, refrigerators, and their populations and their economies are growing very fast. Soon, every Chinese will have a refrigerator. 20 years ago, maybe half had. Soon, 3/4 of the Chinese people will have cars. Think of that. How many billion cars? Right now, the Chinese car industry is the largest in the world. It has now surpassed the U.S. And they're going to go up. India, every Indian would love to have a car. So they're building small cars, the Nano, you know, very cheap. Eventually, every Indian, think of that, 1.5 billion new cars in India. Yeah, that's a lot of cars. But why, we can't tell them no, and every one of them will have a refrigerator, every one of them will have TV, every one of them will have lights on at night. So it's a very difficult problem, and we've got to conserve energy better, and we've got to use it much more intelligently, which is hard to do. Maybe if it was more expensive, then Mexico would be richer because you could sell more oil and more natural gas. So some countries do well and some not so well.
How a developing country can become a developed country, a more developed country without increasing the use of carbon dioxide?
I don't know that it is possible. It is, as I said before, a very difficult problem because to develop, you need electricity is one of your bigger ability to develop. With electricity, you can refrigerate, which helps your health, your food supply. With electricity, you can pump water for irrigation, which helps your agriculture. So maybe wind and solar, but the expense is so great, and a developing country doesn't have the money to do that. One answer, which I usually get into trouble for saying, is we should maybe use nuclear power. That's probably the one way we can get energy without affecting the climate change. But countries are still hesitant to put a lot of nuclear power plants in. It may come. That is the one possibility that we have other problems, but we wouldn't have the climate change problem. So keep in the back of your mind, maybe there will be many more nuclear power plants. That is one possible answer.
Which is the country that has more contamination per capita in the world?
More contamination? Well, I don't know about contamination, but let's talk about carbon dioxide use and pollution. It's surprising. It's Kuwait. Some of the countries in the Gulf states, they have everything air conditioned. You know, in the Gulf states, they even have a ski hill in the middle of the desert. They have a building